You want to know what absolutely nobody saw coming? As a society, we did not expect that in 2025, Baker Mayfield would be establishing himself not just in MVP conversations, but the far and away favorite to win the award. Don't believe me? Well, let's take a look at what the people are saying. Baker Mayfield is an amazing story and a cautionary tale for NFL GMs and coaches who abandon young quarterbacks too soon. Baker Mayfield is the most exciting quarterback in the NFL. Dude took a shot and immediately pops up to talk shit. Electric. Baker Mayfield is the first quarterback ever to have 375 plus pass yards and fewer than 5 incompletions in a regular season game. Baker Mayfield is a sicko. I take back everything negative I ever said about Baker Mayfield. I would go out there and block for that motherfucker right now. And to my mathematicians out there, I'm sure the popular consensus isn't enough for you, so we can talk numbers. I will gladly talk numbers with you all. Cause remember, the numbers don't lie. I've been told by you all specifically that the numbers don't lie. The eye test doesn't matter. This, that, the third, huh? So how is this for numbers? How's this? In yards, we have Matthew Stafford with 1,684 yards, Dak Prescott with 1,617 yards, Sam Darnold with 1,541 yards, Baker Mayfield with 1,539 yards, and Drake May with 1,522 yards. And then we have touchdowns. Jared Goff with 14 touchdowns, Dak Prescott with 13 touchdowns, Matthew Stafford with 12 touchdowns, Baker Mayfield also with 12 touchdowns, and Patrick Mahomes with 11 touchdowns. Of these leaders in touchdowns, here are their interceptions thrown for some really crucial contextualization. Here we have Jared Goff, 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, Matthew Stafford, 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, Patrick Mahomes, 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, Dak Prescott, 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And then leading the way, we have Baker Mayfield with still a ton of touchdowns. He's tied with Matthew Stafford with 12, but the difference is he's protecting the ball. My guy only has 1 pick within his first 6 weeks of the NFL season. He's protecting the ball while simultaneously putting it in the air and scoring touchdowns at an elite rate. This is extremely unordinary, especially given his circumstances, but we're gonna get into that in a bit. Just so we're all clear, Baker Mayfield is then top 5 in yards as well as touchdowns while having thrown the least amount of interceptions of those quarterbacks remaining in the top 5. But just in case that's not enough, according to Sports Illustrated and senior editor Peter Dewey, Mayfield also leads the NFL with 4 fourth quarter comebacks and 4 game-winning drives. It's hard to argue that he hasn't been the most important player to any team through the first month and a half of the season. What I'm specifically trying to get at here is his stats are great. It's undeniable. If you've had a chance to watch the games, you know just like I do that Baker Mayfield passes the eye test. He's balling, he's making the big plays, his teammates look thrilled to play with a guy like him, was not afraid to take the calculated risks and let it fly. But what's most important here is he's making the clutch game-winning plays week after week after week. Though Baker doesn't have quite the household name like a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, or even Lamar Jackson, what he does have is winning intangibles, meaning he's winning a lot, even when some could argue he shouldn't be. I'd like you all to keep in mind that Baker Mayfield is carrying this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team to a winning record of 5-1 while missing half his offensive line, his wide receiver 1 in Mike Evans, and in his week 5 and 6 games against Seattle and San Francisco where he had back-to-back dominant performances that I'm gonna get into in a little bit, he did so without his running back 1, Bucky Irving. With that being said, I'm confident that Baker Mayfield can become the first Buccaneer to win MVP in Tampa history. And to your surprise, it has nothing to do with anything I've said up until this point, so pay close attention. Despite Baker Mayfield's analytics being as great as they are, this is the NFL. Me thinking he's gonna win the MVP has nothing to do with the analytics. My conviction has everything to do with the narrative that has surrounded Baker Mayfield throughout his entire professional career. Because you don't win an award like the NFL MVP just based on your play on the field. You've got to be telling a story. And Baker's got one hell of a story. Allow me to refresh your memory. In college, Mayfield was a starting quarterback at the University of Oklahoma as a walk-on. For those of you who aren't super familiar with college football or just might not know, this is a little more common now with the transfer portal changing things, but at the time this was extremely uncommon. Mayfield went on to win the Heisman Trophy in 2017 and was then drafted by the Cleveland Browns in 2018 with the first overall pick. He was very quickly labeled by media and fans as cocky, immature, and even hard-headed. Despite not having changed whatsoever from that same college kid back in Oklahoma with gutsiness, bravado, and a seemingly never-ending pond of confidence. So what exactly did change to get him all of that scrutiny? A little thing we like to call team success. In the world of football, there is no I in team. Anything short of a Super Bowl is seen as a bust and a failure of a season. Even individual awards don't mean a whole lot to the average NFL fan nowadays, especially at the quarterback position. But what happens when you're drafted to a franchise such as the Cleveland Browns, who's not just known for losing, but losing in an embarrassingly sad fashion? Certainly, the NFL would give such a person grace and allow them time to develop and build their roster, right? Nope. Well, even still, Baker remained resilient. He moved on from the shithole that was the Cleveland Browns and moved on to an even worse team, hoping to double down and prove himself once more. And that team was the Carolina Panthers. Despite embarrassing loss after loss after loss after loss, he waited for an opportunity. A real chance with a real team. And then this report came out. Matthew Stafford out for the season with a neck injury, and Baker Mayfield was joining the Los Angeles Rams for the remaining 4 games of the season. It was a classic low-risk, high-reward situation for the Rams, as Baker Mayfield's raw arm talent was clearly there on the tapes, and since their record was no good and the rest of the team was also injury-riddled, they had little to lose, only inheriting a little over $1 million of his contract. So here you have a Los Angeles Rams team without both of their offensive and defensive leaders, and quarterback Matthew Stafford and defensive tackle Aaron Donald, missing their offensive player of the year and wide receiver 1 in Cooper Kupp. And to make matters worse, they just signed this guy named Baker Mayfield, who's failed so far into his career. He doesn't know the playbook, he has no chemistry with his organization, let alone the receivers on his team. And on Thursday night, he's got to play against the Las Vegas Raiders and Max Crosby. And somehow, someway, they actually managed to win. This is practically unheard of. But you know, the Raiders are the Raiders. Let's see if Baker Mayfield and the Rams can beat a respectable team. And the very next week, they play against the Green Bay Packers and an Aaron Rodgers fresh off an MVP just a season prior. And they lose. Badly. Really badly. They failed to put any points on the board in the first and fourth quarters of the game. They couldn't get it done. And as you'd imagine, people are starting to say, see, I told you last week was just a miracle. Baker Mayfield isn't anything special after all. Baker is just another Heisman winner turned bust. Until that Week 16 game, that is. Because something really very incredible happened in that Week 16 game that even the most sour of NFL fans had to recognize as nothing short of unhuman. Facing off against the Russell Wilson-led Denver Broncos team, not a lot of people gave the Rams a chance. Again, when considering the star players they were missing both offensively and defensively, and without both of their most vocal leaders, to say that they stood no chance against that Denver Broncos defense and Sean Payton-wired offense, well, it was the obvious thing to believe, especially when remembering how bad they played against the Packers just the week before. And so that was the discourse leading up to the game that week. Once again, Baker found himself in a less than ideal situation, almost destined to fail horribly. Most people in such a situation might do the safe thing. Throw the short pass. Don't throw anything deep and run the risk of this loss being your fault. You're the quarterback after all. They're all relying on you. I wonder, do you think Baker had to fight these thoughts? I mean, he's only human after all. The thought must have crossed his mind once or twice before he did this. Yes, you're seeing that right. Final score 51-14. I couldn't believe it either. This man who's been misused, misunderstood, and downright rejected by the media and damn near every sports analyst across America, suddenly he began to not just look good, he looked inspirational. I wanted him on my team. He proved that he had the arm, and more importantly, he gave us a loud reminder as to why we admired him in the first place. And whether the media recognized it or not, the reason we all loved Baker Mayfield wasn't just because of his arm or his winning intangibles. It was because of his heart. His never-given mentality is what now got him in this position with the Buccaneers, and he's not showing any signs of slowing down. And regardless of how this video ends up aging, I'm not afraid to say that Baker Mayfield has the heart of an NFL MVP. And I don't know about you, but that means something to me. That's what ball is all about. Side note, this video was recorded prior to the Week 7 Detroit Lions game they lost. I stand by what I said, but here are the updated quarterback stats if you're still interested. If you liked the video,
like the video. And if you didn't, I don't know, roast me in the comments or something.
Also, feel free to check out my newsletter, Roby Report. If you enjoy the content and also enjoy reading, that's going to be a great place for you to also keep in touch with the NBA, NFL, UFC, and really every sport I enjoy. If there's any interest at all, I'm thinking I'll probably start posting 1 to 2 articles a week. So yeah, make sure to subscribe to the newsletter over there. I'll be putting the link to Roby Report in the description below. It's also attached to my social media links on my homepage. But with that being said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn those noties on. Matista signing out.